should homosexuality be discussed in your child's classroom? Tonight, that controversy is dividing the largest school district in Minnesota. We're bringing you both sides of the heated debate. Watch this, we'll talk. The district's new policy would require teachers to withhold their personal views during classroom discussions on what are called controversial topics like homosexuality. The new policy sounds just like the old policy. Joining me to discuss this, Sarah Warbelow, the state legislative director of the Human Rights Campaign supporting gay rights. Candi Cushman is a spokesperson for CitizenLink, an advocacy arm for the conservative organization Focus on the Family. Steve Perry, CNN education contributor. Steve, okay, help me out. Help me navigate through these waters, my friend. Categorizing homosexuality as controversial already is putting it in a negative context, right? What are your thoughts on this whole controversy?
Drew, one of the things that's most important to realize is that our children exist in the real world. And more important than teaching them what to do is how to deal with the world at large. They're going to deal with people who are gay, straight. They're going to deal with people who are Muslim and Christian, atheists and otherwise. Our job as educators is to tell these children that the world is big and beautiful and that they can embrace diversity and not choose a side simply because they're learning about it.
Candi, I want to go to you. Is this... I don't want to dilute this topic or make it even more confusing, but it feels to me like this is an offshoot on the, and again, Steve is saying it's about embracing diversity, which I don't see how people can argue with that, but it feels like what really is happening here is that this is an offshoot on the controversy surrounding sex education generally. Would you say that's accurate or not?
Well, I would say one thing we should all be able to agree on is that we all want to protect kids. We want to protect their physical well-being. We want to protect every child from bullying and harassment, including those that are gay and lesbian. But we also want schools to be a safe place and a refuge from the over-sexualization of children that we see happening in this culture. We want them to be able to come alongside parents in protecting children's innocence as long as possible in this culture. And so we believe both forms of protection should be addressed in the public school environment.
Sarah, I'm going to ask the same question to you. I can't disagree with what either of my guests have said so far, but we're sort of avoiding the question I'm kind of asking here, which is this just an offshoot of the controversy about sex education and about teaching the kids about the realities of sexuality?
No, it really isn't. Sex education is something very different from teaching anti-bullying. Anti-bullying curriculum can address the fact that there are students who are lesbian, gay, and bisexual in the classroom, talk about complex families, families with two moms, two dads, families in which there's a grandparent-headed household. All of these are things in which kids get bullied for and need to be addressed in the classroom. It's very, very different than talking about explicit sex with children.
Okay. So, Sarah, I want to make sure I understand you, because I think you're making the distinction for me, which is you're saying that talking about diversity but excluding the topic homosexuality would leave that particular group of kids open to more bullying. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. By telling them that their sexual identity is a controversial topic, something that can't be addressed in schools, you're just further marginalizing these children.
Oh, Candi, help us address that. Do you agree with what she's saying here, or what would your response be?
Well, my understanding is that this particular school district already has several anti-bullying policies in place that specifically address sexual orientation. So it just raises question about, the implementation of what's already on their books. But I would say the parents that we hear from, they just simply want to have the right to determine how, when, and if their children are exposed to explicit and specific teaching on controversial sexual topics. And I would say that, a lot of these lessons that homosexual activist groups are promoting for use in the school under the title of anti-bias actually are sexually explicit. And just to give a specific example of that, I've got a book here, Queer 13, which is promoted by one of the largest homosexual activist groups in the nation, GLSEN. And I've read this book, and it has one of the most explicit descriptions of interactions between a 13-year-old boy and an adult stranger that I've ever come across. And I just think, this is being promoted or has been promoted to educators as an anti-bias lesson. And that's what parents want to know about and have the right to exempt their children from.
Steve, you're the educator. Again, it seems like we're going back and forth here between this issue about diversity versus sexual education. Help me.
No, this is not an issue about diversity. This is an issue about sexuality. And these are individuals who don't want to have a conversation in the public schools about gay people. We have 3 openly gay teachers. They are teachers first. Their sexuality is inconsequential. If they don't do their job, they're going to be unemployed, gay teachers. My job is to make sure I create an environment where all children can feel comfortable. But what we're having an issue with here is having a conversation about sexuality and homosexuals. For instance, one of our teachers did a lesson on homosexuals during the Holocaust. That's an important topic to show that it was yet another group who had been gassed because of their sexuality or because of something that differentiated them from another group. We need to begin to have honest conversations about the fact that homosexuals are very much a part of our community and they're very much a part of every day. This is not about homosexuality does not equal explicit sexual conversations. The two are polar opposites. One has nothing to do with another. Simply saying that someone is homosexual and has a job as an attorney or as a talk show host or whatever else it is that they do doesn't mean that we're having an explicit conversation. Drew, you are right. This is an offshoot from the conversation around sex.
Steve, well, let me interrupt you. One last question. Why are people so scared of this topic? And so I'll give you guys, Sarah, a chance to talk when I get back. But why?
I actually have to.
Oh, Sarah, I'm sorry. Sarah's got to leave. I got to give her a chance too. So, Steve, you to answer that question for me, and I'll have Sarah respond, and we'll get out. Go ahead.
I actually believe that there are some people who genuinely don't want their children picked on, and they think that if they push what they think is pushing by exposing children to sexuality, that they will somehow become homosexuals, and that will somehow create a more uncomfortable environment for their child. I think that's the best part of it. The other side is it's just bigotry. Some people are just against people who are different than them.
Sarah, final word to you. Then we got to go.
The other part of this is people understand is that children aren't being targeted just because of their sexual orientation, but also because of perceived sexual orientation. By having in place strong policies that protect all kids and explicitly tell teachers that they must protect kids, you could be protecting your own kid or the child next door.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, my other guest will be back after the break. Now, next, as parents, what can we do to make America's classroom more tolerant? We'll tackle that question when we get back. Stay with us. Joining this discussion now is criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarz. Now, Mark, I brought you into this because you, like I, have 3 kids. I'm trying to pin people down in this conversation. Everyone's very slippery about it. What are your thoughts?
I don't see how schools don't teach it. I mean, we know that most parents, well, I won't say most, but many are unwilling or incapable of discussing the topic. So that's a petri dish at school of bad information. And homosexuality in school doesn't mean we're going to teach you how to be gay or we're going to turn your kids gay. It means that we're going to love everybody equally. We're going to teach compassion. We're going to teach biology, that you don't choose your sexuality like people choose their political association. Okay, I'm going to be Republican.
Right.
I'm going to be gay. And that concept alone is something that needs to be taught so that the ignorance doesn't lead to more bullying.
Now, I have got a report from the Anoka-Hennepin School District. They responded to our request for a statement. It reads in part, the board is putting into policy what it believes is sound teaching practice. When teachers do not put forth their own personal beliefs on controversial topics, students feel freer to form their own opinions. Candi, so let me go to you. I'm going to ask you a real specific question, which is, don't you think we should teach kids that homosexuality is not a choice? Wouldn't that be something worthwhile teaching?
Well, actually, our stance at Focus on the Family is that it's not, people that struggle with this do not feel it's a choice, and we understand that it's not a choice. We explain that there's a combination of factors involved, and so that is our own stance.
Okay. I know your stance, but shouldn't teachers be teaching that to kids? Isn't that something we need kids to know, just so they understand that their prejudices are not something that kids who may have this orientation have any control over, just so we can just raise that awareness?
Well, our whole point is that parents should be able to be in control and determine and weigh in what kids are taught about sexuality in the school. I don't think that the majority of parents are ignorant. I think they are intimate with their children. Parents and legal guardians have the most intimate knowledge of their kids, and they should have a respect level.
I'm going to disagree with you. I deal with the public. I deal with patients all the time, and the lack of sophistication, people can't even figure out. Listen, yesterday data came out that showed that 50% of people don't understand birth control pills. Of people taking them don't understand what their options are, how they work, or what they should be doing. There's tremendous ignorance. There's tremendous confusion. And most parents that I've dealt with want the support and help of the school in dealing with this difficult topic. Let me ask the educator. Steve, help me with this. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. In fact, many parents, I'm often surprised because so many parents don't know their children as well as they think they do. They know them as they want to know them, not as they in many cases are. I see your kids, and when they're here at the school, I see who they like and who they don't like. I see who their girlfriend is or who their boyfriend is, and it may not be who you think it is. And we often realize that we're a pre-K to 12 school, that sexuality is determined early on. And so you can begin to see as early as second grade which kids like which boys or girls. And so when we begin to make children feel like there's something wrong with them, as if they can be deprogrammed for what it is that they're feeling, then what we make them feel is that they are somehow marginalized, but we also make the other group feel emboldened. And then we pit the two groups against one another. What we have to do as a school is teach that there needs to be a safe space. And as long as your expression of who you are doesn't impede upon my expression of who I am, then we have ourselves an amazing academic experience.
Now, Steve, let me ask this one question. Now, one thing I think Candi will support me saying is that most kids do want to get their information from their parents. That's actually something they like, they would like, they want. They want their parents to ring in.
I don't know that I agree with that.
That research is out there. Let's just assume it's true. Just assume it is. But let me just tell you, even myself, it's not easy as a parent to do that. I would want the participation of the school. Is that where most parents fall? Or most parents, in your experience, and again, this is not a scientific study, in your experience, most of them want you to butt out. Which is it?
My experience, most of the kids don't want to have a conversation about sex and sexuality with their parents. What they like to be able to do, I think what they like to be able to do is to freely express themselves as to who they like and who they don't like. I think they feel comfortable. They wish they could ask some level of question, but there's a certain comfort that they have in the anonymity, or I should say the distance that they have with the teachers. So they want to be able to have a conversation about it in terms of a very sterile way.
All right, let's talk about the teachers. The president of the local teachers union addressed the district's current neutrality policy, which prevents teachers from talking to students about homosexuality. She said, this is the teachers union, neutrality has not given us good guidance in the classroom. Our gay students are more likely to be target of bullying. That's not the time to chill a discussion about sexual orientation. Candi, if the facts are that kids are being harmed by the neutrality process, if the clinicians that are being objective about what's good for kids say it ought to be discussed, why don't we do it?
Well, first of all, there is a difference between a curriculum policy and an anti-bullying policy, and my understanding is that their anti-bullying policy does have specific references to sexual orientation. And, but I think our whole point in this is that parents should have a choice when it comes to sex education and sexuality topics in the classroom. You know what? If parents want the school to teach their children that, then that's their right. But they should have a choice. If they are not comfortable what the school is teaching, that should not be forced on their family.